A prominent tech reviewer recently held up this exact device and dropped an absolutely massive claim. They said we might literally be looking at a flawless Android phone. Now, in a market that is built almost entirely on compromises, that is a huge statement to make. So today on The Explainer, we are bypassing the standard intros. We aren't just looking at the sleek exterior. We are ripping off the casing, diving straight into the motherboard, and taking a high-speed X-ray tour of the oppo Reno 16 series' internal engine. We need to see if they've truly engineered a masterpiece.
Okay, let's dive into this. To actually answer whether a truly perfect Android phone exists, we need to take that high-speed X-ray journey through the device's exterior armor and straight into its guts. You know, when a reviewer claims a phone doesn't have a single weakness, they are setting an incredibly high bar for durability, display tech, processing power, battery endurance, and optics. We're going to break down every single one of those elements based on the source material to see if this phone actually survives the scrutiny.
Starting from the outside in, the Reno 16 Pro is built like an absolute tank, disguised in an elegant tuxedo. The exterior features this super premium metal frame and a pristine white glass back that somehow doesn't attract fingerprints. Plus, it has this wild 3D protruding planet design on the back. It literally looks like a tiny planet is floating right there on the chassis alongside those very iPhone-style buttons. But beyond the aesthetics, this phone is wearing ultimate armor. It holds an IP69 and IP69K rating. That is literally the highest standard of water and dust resistance currently available in the consumer market. It is so ridiculously waterproof that Oppo actually built a dedicated underwater shooting mode directly into the camera app. You don't even need a case, you just dive right in.
Punching right through that glass, we hit the display and we are greeted with this massive number, 144. The device sports a 6.32-inch AMOLED screen that hits a blazing 144 Hz refresh rate, which is actually a first for Oppo's mid-range lineup. When you combine that incredibly fast refresh rate with an absolutely staggering peak brightness of 3600 nits, you get an interface that feels impossibly fluid. Whether you're scrolling through social media or trying to read under direct, blinding sunlight, it completely elevates that everyday swiping experience to top-tier flagship levels.
Well, we do find our first slight compromise right under that beautiful display. The fingerprint sensor built into the screen is optical, not the newer instantaneous ultrasonic tech. The reviewer actually had this pretty funny kind of stuttering moment on camera trying to explain this. Basically, you can't just tap it and go. You have to deliberately hold your finger on the glass for a full second. And sure, while it's highly reliable for your daily unlocking, that tiny fraction of a second delay is a quick reminder that we aren't quite in $1,000 ultra flagship territory just yet.
Section 1. What's inside the monster? Power and endurance.
So the absolutely crucial point here is understanding what exactly is driving this flawless experience. At the heart of the Reno 16 Pro is a total powerhouse. It's the MediaTek Dimensity 8550 Super. This is a 4nm octa-core chip paired with 12 GB of lightning-fast LPDDR5X RAM and up to 512 GB of internal storage. But what you should really take away from this is how that hardware translates to the real world. Combined with Oppo's ColorOS 16 interface, the reviewer noted that opening apps, multitasking, and jumping between files happens instantly. There's no lag, no hanging up, it's just raw, uninterrupted speed.
And then we get to the power plant, 6,700 milliamp hours. This battery capacity is frankly monstrous. But what's truly an engineering marvel here is the packaging. Oppo somehow managed to squeeze this massive power cell into a perfectly average-sized chassis. I mean, the phone weighs just 191 grams and is only 8.36 millimeters thick. You're getting near tablet levels of battery endurance, meaning it will easily last a full day of heavy use and push well into the next, all without carrying around a heavy brick in your pocket.
Now, obviously, pushing all that power into the battery requires serious speed, which brings us to 80 watts. The included 80-watt Super VOOC charger rockets this massive 6,700 milliamp hour battery from 0 to 100% in under an hour. It is definitely worth noting here that the phone does lack wireless charging, which might bum out some purists. But honestly, when you can physically plug it in and gain a full day's charge in the time it takes you to take a shower, the lack of a wireless pad becomes a whole lot easier to forgive.
So all this internal hardware translates to absolute gaming dominance. During testing, the reviewer was practically laughing in disbelief, pointing out they racked up 60 kills in Call of Duty Mobile. The Dimensity chip locks both Call of Duty and PUBG at a rock-solid 120 frames per second. Even during intense, chaotic firefights, the touch sampling rate is crazy responsive. Plus, the phone features a spatial stereo sound system with a volume boost feature that pushes audio up to 300%. The reviewer even noted you don't really need headphones because the spatial audio is so accurate you can hear exactly which direction the enemy footsteps are coming from.
Section 2. Breaking photography rules, the camera array. Oppo definitely has a reputation to uphold with its Reno series. And man, they are aggressively pushing the boundaries of mid-range photography here. The camera array on the back of this thing is staggering. The star of the show is a massive 200-megapixel main sensor with an f1.8 aperture, which captures unbelievable detail and dynamic range. Backing it up is a 50-megapixel ultra-wide and a 50-megapixel telephoto lens using a Samsung sensor that delivers incredible 3.5x to 5x optical zoom without losing quality. And if you flip the whole thing around, there's a 50-megapixel ultra-wide selfie camera. To top it all off, both the front and rear cameras are fully capable of shooting 4K video at a buttery smooth 60 frames per second. For content creators, this camera system is an absolute dream, specifically because of a feature called Dual View. This lets you record from both the front and rear cameras at the exact same time. You can format it as a split screen, picture-in-picture, or a floating bubble. Just imagine being at an event, showing the crowd in front of you, while simultaneously capturing your real-time reaction in 4K. Combine that with built-in cinematic pop filters, like a highly premium light leak effect that genuinely looks like expensive film stock, and you literally have a professional creator studio right in your pocket.
Section 3. The sibling rivalry, Pro versus Standard.
And this brilliantly illustrates the comparison if you decide you don't need the absolute bleeding edge. If you want something a bit more understated, the standard Reno 16 drops the floating planet design for a really elegant, matte dark purple. But what exactly do you trade off internally? Well, the main camera steps down from 200 megapixels to 50. The display drops slightly from 144 Hz to 120 Hz. The internal engine shifts from the Dimensity 8550 Super to a Qualcomm Snapdragon 7 Gen 4, capping top-tier gaming at 90 frames per second instead of 120. But here is the kicker, and why this really matters. The standard Reno 16 still retains the exact same monstrous 6700 mAh battery, the same 80-watt fast charging, and the same impenetrable IP69K armor against water and dust.
Section 4. The price tag and final verdict.
So, we've dismantled the hardware, we've examined the cameras, and we've seen the raw performance. But what does it actually cost? The launch price for the Reno 16 Pro sits at $900, while the standard Reno 16 comes in at $680. Now, $900 is undeniably a premium price tag, driven up slightly by global RAM shortages and inflation right now. However, the source provided some incredibly savvy consumer advice here. Patience pays off. If you simply wait a couple of months after launch, these initial premium prices historically drop significantly on the open market, making the value proposition much, much sweeter. Which leaves us with this final, really important thought to consider. The Reno 16 Pro is packed with extreme, boundary-pushing technology. We're talking IP69K armor, a 144 Hz display, a 6700 mAh battery, and a 200 megapixel camera. It practically is a flawless machine. But at $900 for what used to be a mid-range category, it really begs the question, is the era of the affordable flagship killer officially over? Has it been replaced by premium devices that simply command premium prices regardless of their brand tier? It's a fascinating shift in the tech landscape for sure, and it completely redefines what we should be expecting from our hardware moving forward.